So look, first of all, thanks for a million for doing this. I
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
you taking the time out. You must be kind of busy now with everything going on. We'll get to the masters in a few minutes, but I was curious. So you used to live in Ithaca.
Mhm.
Um, I'm assuming if you're friends with Tim, coffee must be something that's kind of high in your list of priorities.
It's pretty high on my list of priorities. We actually just had some this. This is my we're on my attic right now. And we just had a bunch of construction done on the house. The attic got done. The bathroom downstairs got redone, and then I actually had a coffee bar built downstairs right off our kitchen.
Oh,
I'll send you a picture.
dick.
So yeah, coffee's pretty serious in this household.
Yeah, what kind of machine have you got?
I actually just use a traditional pour over and a traditional French press.
Nice. Like a
Yep.
Chemex, is it? Or
Yeah, I have accounts. Yeah,
cool. And have you got a subscription or do you just buy local beans or what do you do there?
I have a subscription. I'm a military veteran, and I have a buddy that owns Alpha Brew Coffee,
Cool.
and uh, small batch, great coffee. And he sends me 3 bags. We have an agreement. He sends me 3 bags a month, which I tend to have to end up going out and buying another bag because I drink that much coffee. But
Yeah,
um,
I was I got a kilo there like last week.
mhm,
It's coffee here in Ireland, and I have a subscription to the same company. Like so, every week I get a 250-gram bag.
mhm,
I don't know what that is in pounds, but I yeah, it's the kilo bag has like my wife just decided like, oh, I'm not going to drink coffee for a while. So the kilo bag has lasted way longer than I thought it would. Like usually it's gone in like a week. So
mhm.
the other ones have been coming in the post all the time. So now I'm like looking at the coffee machine and there's just like a shit ton of bags of coffee behind it. It's like, oh Christ, like what am I gonna do? So yeah, because I was listening to Josh Bridges was on, their podcast with Savan and Matt,
Yeah.
and he was talking. He's like, he knows more than I'll ever know about coffee, but he was like saying how you get a certain amount of time. Obviously it has a shelf life, like a couple of weeks
Mhm.
after it's roasted or whatever. But it was interesting. He was saying if you grind it, you've got maybe 20 minutes.
Yep.
And I like it's funny when you think about like how many well, I suppose how many people are like, oh, I've got an AeroPress, I'll get it ground like on site to be delivered to
Mhm.
me ground. It's like, are you gonna drink all that in 20 minutes? Like, no,
Yeah.
it's funny. What's the coffee scene like is it Sudbury you live in?
Right now, I
Yeah.
live in Red Bank, New
Okay.
Jersey.
And
Yeah,
what's the coffee scene like there?
it's okay. We have there's a small place in this area called Rook Coffee, and that's probably I would say that's probably one of the better coffee shops.
Yeah.
But I'm sure when Tim was on, he talked about Gimme Coffee,
Yeah.
and that is I would put Gimme over pretty much any coffee. Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
I actually have had Tim mail me bags every once in a while,
Yeah, he's there. He regularly posts something
da-
about it. Yeah.
daily. Yeah, he's in there daily.
When I went to Madison a couple of years ago and I was following him and I was literally a day behind him wherever he had been the previous day. He'd be
Oh.
like, "Oh, we'll go there tomorrow." So yeah, he's got good eyes.
Yeah.
Have you got a coffee memory then? Something that springs to mind of like somewhere you were, someone you were with, where coffee was maybe on the periphery somewhere.
Uh, yeah. My um, relationship with coffee probably, I mean, it started like when I was a kid. My parents drink a lot of coffee. Um, my dad's one of those people that drinks coffee all day. Um, and I was in the military, went to Iraq in 2005 and Afghanistan in 2007, 2008. And part of my morning routine when I was in Afghanistan, before I did anything else, I had a little um, hand grinder and I had a French press mug. And I'd go into the dining facility. Like I used to wake up before anybody else woke up because I'd work out and then I'd, kind of start my day or whatever. Which is surprising in the military that nobody else was up early and working out. Um, But so I make my own coffee, and that's kind of the memory that I have.
And
It's,
what branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Navy, U.S. Navy.
Okay. And what was it? What was your role when you were in Iraq and
I
Afghanistan?
was
As you can tell,
information.
I know heaps about U.S. military when I'm using really vague terms to get questions in.
I was in
Like, did you wear a helmet?
I did, yeah. I was in communications, so I did radios and secure and unsecure internet, and like, we worked on like the satellite networks and things like that. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Speaking of communication, um, did you say you were starting or you've started a podcast?
I have one episode done,
Released or recorded?
recorded.
And what's it? What's the basis for it?
It actually has nothing to do with fitness. Yeah, believe it or not. My the podcasts that I like are, yeah, I mean, I listen to like we talked about the Josh, Matt and Saban podcast. I love what they're doing right now. They're
Yeah.
just hilarious. But the podcasts that I really like to listen to are people's stories. So just like their backgrounds. So that's what I want to record.
Okay.
And
Like all walks of life kind of thing.
yeah, all walks of life. People that are in the fitness space, people that aren't in the fitness space. Um, you know, topics that people don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about. I'll very openly and freely talk about.
Hmm.
So
What's the name of it?
don't know yet. That's probably the reason why I haven't released anything yet. So
Yeah.
there's I had a name, but it's there's like 5 other podcasts with the name. So I'm not.
Coin a phrase. There's one.
Yeah, there was I asked for some input and there was a couple out there. The other side of the coin.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that implies that it's you, like that it's you've got some sort of split personality.
Right. Which I'm okay with. Probably not that far off.
Yeah.
So.
How did you find? Did you interview someone for the first episode, or was it like a setup?
I did. I interviewed somebody for the first one, but I probably will go back and record one as a setup as to kind of like the why I want to
And
do it.
how did you find interview? Like it's kind of you kind of well, I find anyway that you kind of slip into a sort of state of flow and kind of forget what you're doing, and it just becomes natural. But there is that kind of awkward point at the beginning where you're kind of like, okay, is everything all set? And like trying to settle the other person. But if it's your first episode, you're also trying to settle yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find it like, is it something that you kind of slipped into nice and easily, or was there like an awkward phase?
There was no awkward. It's a very good buddy of mine. The company that I'm consulting for that I do work for, it's his company.
Okay.
So he's a good friend of mine. We talked. His story is pretty interesting. So we kind of talked about where his background came from and how he got to where he is.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing it. Keep us
Yeah.
posted.
Will do.
For yourself then, when you're doing interviews and stuff, like have you found yourself more in demand for like I guess interviews and opinions and news and stuff since the Masters has been announced and stuff?
Since the release, yeah, I mean, so we started the MFC. I think it's like a year and a half old at this point. And once we announced that we were going to be hosting a competition last year, interest definitely increased on wanting to have conversations with us
I
as
guess
a
it was the
group.
first like post-COVID or mid-COVID event, really. Like,
It was, yeah.
yeah,
We I think there was like one competition that happened in Florida, either right before or right after us, because Florida they don't give a shit. Like COVID doesn't exist. Um, and then we hosted ours, and so the other person that I worked on it with is also the guy. It's all kind of tied together. It's the guy that I consult for, and then I do his wellness program for his company as well. So it's kind of like all mixed into that. Um, and it was he and I, and through his company, it's like senior living, like assisted and unassisted living.
yeah.
And they had a bunch of like COVID rapid response tests that he had access to. So we were able to test all the athletes before they got to the competition, when they got to the competition, and if they requested before they left.
And did you have like, was it awkward getting insurance or anything? Or was there did they care once it was?
We didn't do anything about. Oh, you mean for ensuring the competition?
Yeah.
No problem at all. No, we went through Affiliate Guard, and Vaughn Vernon, who owns Affiliate Guard, has been he's the one I would recommend for affiliates. I mean, a lot of people go to Risk Retention, the CrossFit one, but I would recommend.
Yeah. So I was saying to you off mic when we chatted first on email, I recognized your name and I couldn't place it. And then you mentioned Tim Paulson and it kind of all clicked together. So you founded CrossFit Palace with him, whatever, 7 or 8 years ago.
2012.
And did you met in college? Is that right?
We did, yeah. So we played hockey together at Ithaca College.
And had you both been doing CrossFit, or did you find it during that, or did one show the other?
I showed him. I started CrossFit in 2005. So I've been at it for a little while. Yeah, early days, the old message boards. I'm sure you can go back and find some messages I left.
So was that through the Navy then that you found that?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And was that like, was there other people doing it when you were in the Navy, or did you just kind of need to figure out? Did you feel like you needed to supplement what you're doing with something outside of the Navy as well? Training.
It was the training that clicked with me most. The training within the Navy is from in the military period is pretty minimal. You're kind of left to your own devices after you get out of like your schools to maintain your fitness level. And I was introduced to CrossFit on my first deployment on the USS Ronald Reagan in the hangar deck. It was an EOD chief, ordnance disposal chief, who was like, "Hey, come on down to the hangar deck. Let's do this workout." And I was like, "Okay." And I was I was a smoker when I was in the military, so I'd like come off the smoke deck, which is like right off of where the hangar deck is, and like I walk over, I smell like cigarettes, and I'm like, "All right, what are we doing?" He's like, "We're gonna do Fran," and I was like, "Oh shit." So
yeah. How long after that did you stop smoking?
Very quickly.
I was gonna say like Fran Lung on its own is something special, but Fran Lung while you're a smoker is next level, I'd say.
You don't get Fran Lung when it takes you 17 minutes, man.
Yeah, you miss your next shift because you're still
still trying to get your breath back, I guess.
Yeah. Where are you now then? What are you working at now? Because you left Ithaca.
I did, yeah. I left Ithaca. I moved to the Boston area with my wife. She's a veterinarian and took a job at a university. And while I was there, I worked for, I think as a coach, that's probably where I honed my craft the most. I was fortunate enough to work at probably like 8 different gyms in the Boston area, including CrossFit Tilt, CrossFit New England. I was the head coach and the manager at a gym when we first moved there, which has since changed hands and names. So,
you worked in 8 different gyms. Did you move around? Like, did you consciously decide to do short stints at each one, or did it just kind of fall that way?
There was a point where I was working at 5 different gyms at one point.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I'd start my day at 5 o'clock in the morning at one gym, and I'd end my day at 7 p.m. in another gym. So I was coaching, and like in the middle there, I'd get my training in. So I was coaching, anywhere between 6 or 7 classes a day.
And was that to kind of maximize your, I guess, opportunities to learn and stuff, or was it like?
Yeah, it was. I had the opportunity to interact with a couple hundred different athletes per day.
Yeah.
So kind of expedited the 10,000 hours rule for me a little bit, to start trying to, like I said, hone that craft.
So obviously, like, I suppose people get comfortable. or, like settled, I suppose, in a place or in a state of being. Maybe like, did you like, was there an adjustment period when you left Palace to be like in a different gym and be like, no, that's not the way we used to do it in Palace? Like, was it difficult to kind of leave that behind?
At certain places, yeah. At other places, I'm I'm very confident that the way that we operate at Palace from a coaching standpoint is the way the gym should operate. I think we do a fantastic job. I would honestly put my gym against any gym in the Northeast from a coaching standpoint, and I would pick my gym 9 times out of 10.
Hmm.
From the level of coaching, level of care, the level of ability that my coaching staff has. We've done a lot to develop them, and they've put a lot of time into develop themselves, and they're committed to the process. So um, typically, what ended up happening is I'd go to a gym and I'd be like, "That's how we did do it, and now this is how we're gonna do it."
Yeah.
So I'm pretty vocal about that. I'll introduce that stuff rapidly. I've since learned better about it.
Developed
So
a filter.
yeah, I've developed a little bit of a filter. I got snake bit once or twice when that
Okay.
happened. So.
And so if you're in like you know, the Massachusetts area, I'm assuming like you must have worked with Ben then in New England, or around that kind of environment anyway. Was that like um obviously like since you've moved there, it's become this kind of hub where like all these like elite athletes are moving to the
Mhm.
area, and it's like there's a big buzz seems to be developing around it. Was there anything like eye-opening there when you went where you were like, oh shit, okay, yeah, I get it? Or is it like, do you think it's purely Ben and I guess the draw he has or the expertise that he has?
I think there's two different. New England is an incredibly CrossFit New England is a very incredibly dynamic business model because it's not just the affiliate side, but it's also the competitive side that Ben has. Now these 5 athletes that he works with. Now that Chandler's joined them, which I think is great. Um, and then there's the online side that they have with the comp train masters, comp train class. From a programming standpoint, for general physical preparedness, I would say that the comp train or CrossFit New England model is one of the best. People get really fit doing that kind of workout. Um, they don't necessarily get really strong, but they get really fit, which is really the purpose of this, right? From a GPP standpoint. Um, I think there's been seasons kind of through how things at New England have operated. For a very long time, they had a number of individual athletes, masters athletes, but their big thing was team. They've won 2 affiliate cups. They've had some pretty successful teams and individuals on those teams that have gone on to compete individually, like Rachel Martinez. Um, and then they kind of had this like couple-year lull where they were really trying to get their bearings, which is when I was there, and exactly what their identity as a business was. And now I think it looks like Ben is kind of picking back up on that competitive side. I'm really interested to see what he does with. It looks like he has 6 athletes there right now. The one that people tend to forget about is Emma Gardner.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic athlete. I mean, she started out with him when she was 13, I think. Her mom, she used to come to my class all the time. Her mom is fantastic, but she's a phenomenal athlete, and I think she's going to be molded by what's going on there as an athlete and as a person. So.
Yeah, I read a couple of things like where he's like that's purely going to be his focus now. Like Ben's focus is like
Mhm.
that side of things rather than the general day to day, or any kind of, I guess, like box owner kind of stuff. He's literally going to focus on like the competitive athletes. But it's like, yeah, I mean, we've all heard that iron sharpens iron thing, and there's some really sharp bits of iron in there now. Like, so, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There seems to be two like uh meccas developing between, like, say, Tennessee and then New
Yeah.
England. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Or in like 5 years' time when they just turn into two teams of with the people that are currently there, that'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
If you left Ithaca and still own, like you're still a partner there,
Mhm.
like what is it about coaching that keeps you coaching? Because surely you could kind of sit back a little bit if you wanted to.
I am sitting back now. I haven't coached a class since March of last year.
Okay, and
So
was that a difficult transition to make then?
initially it was. I started doing some. So gyms closed down here in March of last year, March 15th or 16th. Um, and I was doing some personal training. I have a garage gym that's pretty well built out. I was doing some personal training in the garage. I had about 7 clients at one point, and then when we started working on this Masters Fitness Collective stuff, and it really started taking off, and Bobby Petras, who's the one of the other people that owns MFC with me, and I started working together on other projects. I just had to step away from coaching to develop some other things, like the corporate wellness program that I work on, and um,
So I
you
guess
know,
you avoided that kind of void then, like the kind of vacuum.
yes,
Yeah.
there was it was one of those things. For a very long time, I wanted to step back from coaching because it is as rewarding as it is. Um, it's difficult to get yourself amped up every single day in the level that is expected and that you should be bringing the energy to people. Um, you can't be great all the time. You have to be good sometimes and fair most of the time. Um, and like I was starting to kind of lose a little bit of that flow state when I was coaching. Um, I was talking to somebody the other day, and one of the things that I was saying to them is that if you're not walking into every class you're coaching a little bit nervous, regardless of how much experience you have, you're probably in the wrong profession. And there was a point where I was starting to get too comfortable with that. So I felt like I needed to step back, and COVID gave me the opportunity to step back from that and kind of explore some other things. So
When you say nervous, like um do you mean nervous of the programming, nervous of like shit, what if I don't deliver it properly or that something might happen, or like do you mean that you just need to be on your toes all the time?
yeah, nervous of like when you're coaching a class, there's an expectation of you being the expert, especially when you've been at it for a really long time. Um, Ben talks about the 5 different levels of coaching, and the 5th one being that like your reputation precedes you. Um, and I don't know that I'm there yet, but I'm definitely like, I think I'm on the cusp of that. And I'm not trying to be like full of myself, but I've been coaching a long time. I have a lot of experience. The 10,000 hour rule is definitely, I've had a lot of, um, I've had a lot of good mentorship in my coaching journey. I think I do a great job correcting, making people move better, getting people fit and healthy. And if I feel like, I feel like I have to perform and deliver something every time I coach a class. I feel like it doesn't matter if they're an athlete that's been with me for, you know, 8, 9 years, or if it's an athlete that is their first class out of foundations. I feel like they should learn something every class that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it must have been exhausting then. Like if you're constantly in on that like on edge, or like um I guess anticipating problems or anticipating like errors or mistakes or looking for opportunities all the time, it must be just exhausting then all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can see why you step back.
Which is why I step back a little bit.
Yeah.
I might, right now I'm at a gym called Asbury Park CrossFit, or they go by the name King's Fitness. Great little gym, reminds me of when Tim and I started CrossFit Palace. The members are all pretty green as it applies to understanding the methodology and being a part of CrossFit. Um, the owners are super excited to be doing what they're doing. she's a school teacher as well. And the other owner is he does some kind of law. He's a lawyer of some sort.
I was gonna say, how can a school teacher afford to open a CrossFit gym? But then he grows.
Yeah, it's a little bit of financial backing, yes. Yeah, and it's a great environment to be a part of. They're having a lot of fun doing what they're doing.
It's infectious though as well. That like that kind of new energy is infectious. Like,
yeah, and there's no drama there. I'm sure you've been in CrossFit gyms where you walk in and it's like, oh, the gym down the street, or oh, like, and I've been a part of that, begrudgingly, but these guys, there is none of that. There's just like, hey, we love what we're doing. We're gonna make people fit, and we're gonna learn along the way, and we're gonna figure out how to open the parachute as we're falling, and they're doing a pretty good job of that. I think the person they have leading the show over there is a girl named Sarah Murphy, also very Irish, and she's the teacher, and I think teachers bring a very unique approach to coaching. I think they're naturally good at it, and they naturally want to improve and do better. And she definitely fulfills that as she's falling and learning how to open up the parachute. So.
I like that analogy, the parachute. That's nice. So you mentioned there one of the reasons that you've stepped back, I suppose, from coaching more regularly is the Masters Fitness Collective. So I guess it exploded last year. It was founded, I guess, 2 years ago, or coming up on 2 years ago, and it kind of exploded last year. Originally, I suppose it was founded from looking at the mission statement, I guess, is to unite master athletes like all over the world. Like, why do you think that that's something that was needed? Like, you obviously saw a gap. So why do you think that gap appeared, and why do you think something was needed to fill it?
Yeah, so I have a chat group with probably close to 20 of us now on Instagram, and it's a group of guys that we've competed against each other at some of the larger competitions, Wadapaloozas and the Granite Games and things like that. And a couple of years ago, when the coverage was removed for Masters athletes from the games, we're like, there's a couple of us had gone to the games that year, and that's the updates that we're getting is like these like crappy iPhone 8 videos of our buddies competing, and we're like, man, we really like they're missing the boat here. So originally we had created it out of frustration a little bit, in that we wanted to, our buddies made it to the show, so to speak, and we wanted to see them compete, and we couldn't. So we had to basically we're just looking at the leaderboard every day and be like, oh, well, he did well in this one, or blah blah, whoever, and
it's funny though. Like, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was actually looking up, and like the age groups divisions make up like 50% of people who do the open, like, correct, worldwide.
Yeah.
Or they have done in the past, and I don't know what this year is, but like, it's something then that it doesn't it never really transferred onto the latter stages. Like, so it never really, there was no representation at regionals. It was like an online kind of qualifier, and there was no, like, even I know the year I was there in 2019, like there was 10 in each field, and it was like, meanwhile, like the elite field explodes to like over 100, and then it seems like
well over 100. Yeah, 2019
like,
there was like 300 and some athletes. Yeah,
but like the masters and the teens, then like, what was the reaction to that? Because surely there's a thing of like, oh fuck this, like, if you're affording having that many people on that side of it, why can't we have like 15 people in our division instead of just 10?
The reaction to that is the founding of the Masters Fitness Collective.
Yeah.
That's that was like I said, it was born out of frustration. We never had any intention of running a competition. We were opening primarily as a platform to kind of unite masters together. There was some talks about creating masters-based programming. Maybe not necessarily to compete with things like Comp Train and Misfit Masters and now Mayhem and Invictus, but to kind of supplement some of that stuff. I've seen all of those programs, and I think I think some of them do a good job of covering things that masters need a little more from a structural and self-care standpoint, like like unilateral movement. We rarely include single side movement in anything we do in CrossFit, but in order to keep joints healthy and moving well, and you know I hate using the word, but like to balance the imbalances, you need some of that stuff. You need some side to side movement and some single leg stuff, single arm stuff. And so that was kind of the basis of what we were going to do with that programming. Um, and then we were going to provide media coverage, which we did for the Legends competition when they held it out in Carlsbad at I forget the name of it out there. So we live streamed their event uh, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago, and that was kind of like our first big event.
And then like last year, I suppose obviously everything just globally went into the shitter. And I suppose one of the first casualties was the teen and masters divisions when it came to CrossFit, that they kind of said like, okay, well that's not going to happen. And then as the end result was 5 men and 5 women. Rich tried to work something out with the teams, and obviously like got derailed because of COVID as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the reaction among the masters, say, for like when they were first on the chopping block? Was there like a sense of like, well, obviously, of course, it's going to be us first, or was there like did it just kind of heighten the need for what you're already doing?
It heightened the need for what we were already doing. That the moment they literally the day that they canceled, we had seen the writing on the wall, and we may have had talked to somebody before that. I don't remember. Over at HQ, and we had seen the writing on the wall, and we're like, the day that they announced it, the 4 founders of MFC got together, and we were like, let's do something. Let's. There's people that have qualified this year that have never qualified before, and they're going to miss out on this opportunity. It's like missing out on the Olympics for them, So let's create something that's going to work for them and be well run and give them a way to end their season, which I think we did last year.
Yeah, I think like you know like it's funny because I suppose it's difficult to please everyone, and you've got like scheduling is obviously going to be something that's difficult to manage on a large scale, like say at events like the games. But like even I noticed when I was there that like every event clashes with something like that. There was basically no opportunity if you wanted to watch the elite field. There was pretty much no opportunity to watch the masters, or like to watch a full series of events, a full series of heats in an event of the Masters. Because if the Masters are on, the elite field are on, or if the teens are on, the elite are on right outside the door. So it's like, which are you going to go and see? Like you have to pick. Um, so I think it's a unique opportunity, I guess, when it's just the age groups, when it's just the Masters. Or I know that they put on a teen event as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like the end of
The pit. It was
yeah.
the week right before us, like or 2 weeks
So
before
like
us.
there's I suppose there's people stepping up to the plate that need to do something. Like there's obviously a gap there that needs to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
um and then I suppose like what was the dates, say, when you heard there was no matches at the games until you held your event? Like what was the time span there,
3 months.
and what was it like setting up?
It was interesting. A lot of it. So we wanted to create an event where masters felt celebrated, and that includes things like cash payouts, which I think are important. It's not the end all be all for a lot of masters. They do it for the love of the sport and for the love of competition, and they have their own reasoning. But I think it is part of it. If you bust your ass for however long and you get to the show and then you compete, you walk away with $1,000, like you're kind of like, cost me more money for my flight and my hotel. You know what I mean? So um, we wanted to make sure that we had some cash to give people, which we did a great job with. We were able to raise close to $100,000 in cash, and then we wanted to like give them an experience that was similar to the games, but wasn't the game. So everybody that came and competed got a Bear Complex bag, and they got jerseys with their names on it, and they got Pro Symmetry gave us some of their hip halos. Everybody got one of those, and there's like all these things that we kind of gave to people in this bag that kind of, it may not have been the same like layout as what CrossFit gives you when people take the picture on the bed and it's like you have all these things with your name on it. But it gave that level of experience the best that we could do that year.
Yeah. I think it's important though, because that's the thing that I think most competitions anyway strive for, is that like to impart that feeling of like achievement of just being there, like that thing of like, you're part of it now, like, you've got the t-shirt, you've got the whatever else, like, so it's kind of like I guess like a semi-pro stage, like you get that kind of sense of like, oh shit, I've made it, like, as opposed to just being like, is this it? Did you use, I guess, lessons learned from the games then? Did you use like, in your group chat, was there like, oh, we need to do this because that always pissed me off when we were at the games that didn't happen and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've this I wish I could go back to the beginning of this group chat. It started probably like 3 years ago of us just like bantering and bullshitting with each other. And then the group's kind of grown from there. We actually have probably who I think is probably the strongest human being in CrossFit right now in that group, a guy named Greg Hardwick, who will regularly hang power clean 405 for reps. And he's in the 45 to 49 division. He used to play for baseball.
There's no even transfer there.
No, zero transfer. I think he was a pitcher too, and it's kind of like, well. So we had and like we've been through the experience too, of like what we felt a good competition was and what we felt a good competition was not. And you learn lessons from that regardless of what competition you experience. And we also had the opportunity to team up with the guys from Loud Live because they didn't really have much going on. So Dylan and Matt have been great sounding boards for us as far as like how to run a successful competition.
Yeah, like been there, done that, I guess.
And yeah, I knew Matt from when we were at CrossFit New England. He and Ben are good buddies. So like I had his cell phone number and we just kind of reached out and set some things up and had some great conversations with them. And they're very pro Masters Fitness Collective. They are, I would say they are probably one of our biggest advocates on how we ran our competition last year and how we're going to run the competition this year.
Yeah. So. Like you mentioned there the COVID testing and stuff beforehand, and that's one thing it got a lot of praise for, was how it handled everything as an event. Because I suppose it's one of those things where like you must have felt a lot of pressure because like everyone was watching, because people were either waiting for something bad to happen so they could be like, oh, they shouldn't have held that event, or like hoping that it went amazingly well so that it gave hope to maybe their event that they were planning further down the line. So like it must have been a real like powder keg of like, oh God, I hope this goes right.
I remember standing outside of the pool before the first event kicked off it was a 4-day event. So we started on Thursday. And our first event was a swim kettlebell snatch workout. And I remember standing at the pool. The sun's not even up yet. I'm standing with Bobby and we're like 5 minutes away from kicking off. And I'm like, well, here we go, man. And at a certain point, you were talking about Cooper March earlier, and he was talking about and Brett Fikowski and how there's like controllables and letting go of the uncontrollables. To me, I call that internal and external locus of control. So the internal locus of control is that you can only react to things. Things that happen to you, you have no control over. Like in a competitive sphere, like I can't control what somebody else's training is. I can't control how fast somebody else goes in a workout. The only thing I can control is my emotional state and my ability to push harder, right? And it's the same thing here. I have Bobby and I and the rest of the team, controlled every possible aspect of the competition from a safety standpoint that we could, all the way down to the last event. I changed the last event on the fly for the older divisions because it had a lot of legless rope climbs in it. And the last thing I wanted to do was have people have a really shitty experience leaving the competition because they got hurt.
Yeah.
So control what you can control and then react to what you have to react to with a level emotional state. And that's the way that I feel we approached the health and safety aspect of the competition. And I think we did a great job with it. We did have some cases upon getting home, but we weren't able to trace them directly back to us. There were people that were, traveling on planes and driving.
Even, I guess the fact that it wasn't
interacting
rampant. Do you know what I mean? Like if
Right.
if it got there and everyone got it, you fucked up. Whereas if you got there and the same people that came with it left with it, it's like everything was fine.
Yeah. And we were mandating masks and we were, because we were live streaming and we were being held to a standard. And I appreciated that because it made us do what we were supposed to do.
Yeah. Following on from it then in December, there was a post put up where you discussed a meeting with Castro and Rosa and a meeting had been held, I suppose. Like, what was the general gist of that meeting, or how did it come about?
The initial conversations. So last year we had talked with a number of people that run the games team. We talked to Justin Berg. We had talked to a number of people, Jonathan Haynes, people that are involved at the level of the games from a media standpoint and from a director standpoint. And they kind of gave us, hey, let's keep the conversation open kind of thing. And then December rolled around and we felt that we had run a successful competition, which for all intents and purposes we did. And we felt we had some input and some value to add back to Eric Rosa's goal of trying to increase participation in the open and how he could approach that. So we set up a meeting with them. I believe Matt O'Keefe helped us set that up. I don't remember. But set up a meeting with them, and Eric was excited to talk to us. It was pretty awesome. And so we sat down and kind of gave him our feedback about what the master community's been saying about wanting kind of like equal footing. You talked about it earlier in that like half of the open is masters. And Bobby and I we're business guys, and we approached it from a business standpoint. The amount of buying power that masters have is exponentiated above what some of the individuals have. These are the people that are willing to travel to destinations to compete, just for the experience.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's like you've got people who maybe are at a different stage of parenthood, or people who are at a different, a more secure financial footing, or like have had longer to clear debt and set themselves up so they can afford to go to these things, or more disposable income, I guess.
Yep.
Hopefully. Yeah. God, I hope I have disposable income when I'm masters.
Ideally, that's what it is. Yeah. And I think that kind of resonated with them. Do
you think it helped that Rosa participates in masters himself?
100%. I think and this might get some negative flack, from a purely business standpoint, I think one of the best things that's happened in CrossFit is Eric Rosa taking over. Yep. I think he has brought the team together at HQ in a positive light, with a very positive impact on how CrossFit is identified as. Coach Glassman did a lot of great things. Coach Glassman also did a lot of really shitty things. And I think you can't fault the man for for wanting to push his agenda of, ending chronic disease. I think it's still a very large aspect of what we're doing within the affiliate model. And I think it definitely we need to focus on that CrossFit health thing. Maybe not under that title, but Eric Rosa is a businessman. CrossFit in and of itself has never been run as a business. It's been run as a good old boys network. And I feel that with Eric Rosa at the helm, Tim and I were ready to de-affiliate. We were ready to remove our affiliate because there wasn't any value in it. It had nothing to do with anything else other than if we look at it from a net positive or a net negative, everything that CrossFit was bringing to Alice was a net negative, right? The only net positives we had were like the ability to compete and then a little bit of marketing, right? But even the marketing was like not all that great. When Rosa took over, I feel like Tim and I had lined up 5 things, and you're going to ask me what they are, and I don't remember exactly what they are. Before Rosa took over, in order for us to maintain our affiliation, 1 was that Greg had to step down. 2 was that we had to see more value out of our affiliation. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll pay $15,000 a year for affiliation if I can see $15,000 worth of value, right? The $3,000 that we pay, we get about $3,000 for it from a marketing standpoint. But when the marketing is all negative, like, is it really that much value? Board of trustees, or having a board to like board members to kind of discuss things about. Bringing Nicole Carroll back, I think that was a huge thing from a CrossFit training standpoint. And then I forget what the last one was. It probably had something to do with bringing back regionals or something like that, because of how exciting that was within the community and what that did for us. He's pretty much done all of them. So we reaffiliated this year. And we'll keep reaffiliating as long as we see that value there.
Yeah, I think it's obviously like there's always a split between the sport and what would you call it, the methodology, I suppose, where it's like, that training for, I guess, lifelong engagement and activity, I suppose, versus like competitive fitness, like doing fitness fast. But I think like Rosa, one of the first things I heard him say kind of struck a chord with me, where it's like, kids in America don't go out throwing a football around if they've never seen the Super Bowl, and they don't play a little league if they've never seen, the Major League Baseball game on TV or whatever. So like, it is clever pushing the sports side in order to be like, you can do what these people do, like not to the same level. I mean, very few people can, but you can still engage in the same way, and you can, you can be a fan, and you can be involved, and you can be part of something. And, I think it's very clever. And I think, as you say, with the age groups making up so much of the open, it's a no-brainer, especially when the majority of the age group participants are people who have this disposable income and who have this freedom in their lives to be like, fuck it, I'm going to Miami, or like whatever. I think as well, like, so last week we had this, I guess, like a mic drop announcement of Masters Fitness Collective Championships becoming CrossFit licensed. So how did that happen? So is that something that was talked about in December, or is it something that grew since then?
It was something that so Bobby and I had the idea, and the rest of the I keep saying Bobby and I because the rest of the group, we had one guy who was competing in the Masters Fitness Collective Championship last year. That's one of the owners, and we kind of like kept him out of things to keep it fair. He ended up winning anyway because he's a phenomenal athlete. But and then the other guy, Jamie Free, he and his wife were going through IVF, and he couldn't be there because there was some things they had to take care of with that. I'm happy to report that she's about 6 months pregnant.
Oh, amazing.
5 or 6 months. Yeah. So he's going to be a dad, and he's going to be a great dad to a little girl, which is great. So they weren't able to participate in that. So Bobby and I kind of took the helm of this. And as we were kind of getting through the competition last year and sitting out back of his house, drinking some good bourbon post competition, you know, the conversation kind of revolved around like, well, are we going to do this next year? And the decision we came to is that if we're not going to be supported by CrossFit HQ, there's no use in us repeating it. It could have been a one-off, and we had a successful competition, could have gone out on top, and you know, so we just wanted to explore the conversations. So it was brought up in December, but we didn't actually like get to the bottom of anything until recently.
Yeah.
So,
What does it mean? Like, so what will it mean for the competition?
so
Because even I saw you had
yeah.
a question box on the Masters Collective page like
Mhm.
last week or whatever, and one of the questions was, so is this the end of the season? And your answer was like, no, well, the CrossFit Games is still the
Yes.
end of the season for the open participants or whatever, and this is a separate but linked competition, I guess. So like, what does it mean to be a CrossFit licensed competition for the Masters Fitness Collective?
So the licensing, one, allows us to use the name CrossFit, which is from a marketing standpoint, it's great. It also gives us free access to kind of the leadership team at CrossFit, and assistance from CrossFit in a marketing standpoint, in a support standpoint, in a legitimacy standpoint, right? So CrossFit, we asked for the licensing last year. The pit, the teens competition ended up getting a license last year, and we were a little bit late to the game. We did want to get a license last year, but CrossFit said to us, "We want to see what you guys do this year." So it creates a little bit of legitimacy around the competition that we're running. Um, I took I was the competition director last year, and I took a lot of pieces out of the Dave Castro playbook of how to run a competition, from appearance to the details. Bobby will laugh when I say this, but like, paying attention to the details in the competition, I think gave us a lot of legitimacy, and made CrossFit pay attention to us a little bit more, all the way down to like where the barbells are placed and how the athlete workout will flow and what that stuff looks like. Um, how the points are scored and what it looks like from all that. And I
That's tricky
think
to get right in 3 months,
it
considering
is,
Dave has 12 months.
yeah, it is tricky to, and he's got also got, you know, uh,
Boz
the
and everyone else.
2000, 2007 of experience, right?
Yeah.
Like the game started back then. Um, but uh, you know, Bobby has a great team at his gym. He has a great team at his business, and we utilized a lot of those resources. And we were able to, some of the volunteer staff came from gyms in the local area, and we were able to pull it off without much of a hitch. There was a couple things, but we tried to act like ducks, where on the surface it looks fine, and underneath we're swimming like crazy. Um, and I think that's what made CrossFit want to partner up with us after the conversation, is that, hey, these guys run a pretty legit competition. They did a great job last year. Let's see what they can do this year with the backing of what we're doing.
Yeah. And then I guess like brass tacks, I suppose. Like, let's talk details then for this. Like, how does qualification work
Sure.
for, say, if someone's interested in signing up for the competition? Like, what hoops will they have to get through in order to get there?
I want to back up on that for 1 second.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit earlier about the money, right? So the money that came into the competition. I want it to be very well known that aside from our expenses, what it costs us to run the competition, um, we don't keep any money. Every single dollar that we get from this competition goes back to the athletes or the athlete experience, either in the prize pool or in the gear that they're getting, or in the, you know, the pre and post dinners, or whatever. We are not keeping any cash for ourselves from this competition. People might approach that as like, oh, they're, you know, altruism or whatever. But I want it to be very well known that, that the reason we run this competition is because we saw a need for this competition, and we have fun doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, athletes, that are going to compete in our competition are going to get that 5-star experience, because we're putting a lot of money into it from the sponsors and what they're doing. We also tend to partner up with a charity. Last year we partnered up with Steve's Club, and we were able to give them a good chunk of cash.
That's cool.
So, but from a qualification standpoint, so the first requirement is that everybody has to do the open. And it's not like your position in the open, unless you place top 10 in the age group qualifier, your position in the open is inconsequential. It's just a checkbox. So you've either competed in the open or not. I've gotten a lot of messages asking, saying, hey, I'm injured right now. I wasn't planning on doing the open, but I want to do your competition, et cetera, et cetera. I bounce back and forth about this. But if you're signed up for the open, and if you compete at the scaled level, if you compete at the at-home level, if you compete at the RX full access to a gym level, and record 1 rep, you're eligible to compete in our competition. It's just a requirement that we want you to sign up for the open. It's part of our partnership with CrossFit. From there, we're going to take between 5 and 10 from the age group online qualifier. We've Loud and Live will be running the Granite Games, and we'll be running the West Coast Classic this year. I'll let them announce what's going on with that. But those guys are incredible. They're going to pull off a pretty awesome event, awesome 2 events. And then had a conversation with the folks over at Filthy 150 last week, and the way that we're going to work it is that the winners of those divisions are going to get an automatic bid to our competition. The idea being that we'll fill between 8 and 12 slots with people who have qualified for either the CrossFit Games or qualified for one of these other events. And then we will backfill or fill the remainder of the 20 or 30. We're still working on if it's going to be 20 or 30 athletes per division. 20 or 30 with the qualifier, our qualifier, which will happen over the summer. This year, it's probably going to be 2 weekends. Last year, it was 3 events, one of which was programmed by Tim, which was fun. It was I think it was snatches and double unders or something like that. I don't remember the exact workout, but so we'll have another qualifier that probably extends over 2 weekends. Blind leaderboard the first week, and then we'll reveal it, and then we'll keep the leaderboard open for the second week.
Oh, that's cool.
Potentially.
Just to make people shit their pants for a full week. That's clever.
Love it. Yeah. I personally, like, I hate the wide open leaderboard, and to me it causes people to be dishonest with their sport sometimes. If they feel like they're not going to get checked.
Yeah.
So I don't love that.
If one qualifies for the event, then for the final, like, what can they expect from
that? In what aspect?
As in, like, are we talking a weekend? Are we talking a 3-day event? Are we talking?
Yeah, so it'll be a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, over our Labor Day weekend, which is the first weekend of September, in Fort Wayne, Indiana. On Thursday, so the day before the individual competition will kick off, we're going to do a Wodapalooza style liftoff.
Okay.
With Sinclairs and everything like that, and we'll determine grand champions, etc. And we're also going to be hosting a 2-person competition. And the goal behind that is as a charity event, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And it's going to be teams of 2, and it's going to be something called Cannon Brawl style. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cannon Brawl.
Cannon Brawl.
Cannon Brawl, yeah. So you basically you might have 5 workouts in a 2-hour span. Okay. And you might have 20 teams going at one time. And then, you might have after that 2-hour span, you have another 20 teams going for 2 hours and another team.
Oh, like
20.
rolling clock kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah. And you're not going to know who won until the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
But it's
understand.
like you have like a workout, you rest for 5 minutes, then you do a workout again, and you rest for 5, and so on and so forth for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it's going to end up being, and kind of determine a grand champion. And the whole purpose of that is to create some fun for the volunteers and the people that are coming to spectate and stuff like that, and give them an opportunity to.
The
And we're going to do
community
that.
aspect, I guess.
Yeah, and that's huge for us.
Yeah. I can see
you
why you
know,
linked up with Filthy then. That's
yeah,
a good match.
yeah. And that's I actually didn't know that before I had the conversation the other day, and then they said that, and I was like, wow, this is perfect. This matches up really well. Yeah. So and then the competition will kick off early Friday morning. We haven't decided if we're going to do a swim this year. The logistics of the swim last year were kind of muddled.
It's tricky for insurance, I'd say, is it?
It wasn't too bad because we did it at a pool.
Okay.
And we had lifeguards, we had all the appropriate like safety aspects. But we had originally talked about doing it. Bobby lives in a community that has like a lake, and we had talked about doing it on his property in the lake. And I've swam in that lake, and it's rough. So
the second and last Masters Fitness.
Second and last, yeah. So and then we'll move to the Grand Wayne Center and the Tin Caps Baseball Stadium on. Those are the two main venues that we'll be hosting at. So
And
that'll be more traditional CrossFit.
Is there something? There's something to do with Labor Day and wearing white, isn't there? Is there something? Isn't there like a?
Yeah, you don't wear white after Labor Day. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I knew there was something. Yeah, that's not a thing here. With the age groups then, so what are the different brackets that people can participate in?
Yeah, so we're starting a little bit earlier for people. We're opening up to 30 to 34. Okay. So we'll have a 30 to 34. Yeah. Hey, I mean, and there were some people that were. I got some complaints on our Instagram post about that. People saying like, there's this one guy that like, I'll let you guys go read the comment, but he was like, he said something and to the extent of like, if you want a participation trophy and blah blah blah, and they put like the middle finger emoji, and I'm like, well, qualify first, and then we'll complain. But
it's funny it's funny that you say that, because I think there is a thing. We'll get back to the age brackets, because I do want to explain. I want you to explain what they are, but there is a commonly held misconception about when you hear the word masters, that it's like somehow easier or somehow like less competitive or less. Like I remember when I was, more ignorant. I remember when I was like 28 or 29, so like not that long ago. But I remember talking to my coach at my gym, and I was like, I made a joke saying like, oh well, when I get to masters, like that's when I'll be ready. Like, I'll be, like I think I said like something like, oh, masters 2026 or whatever. That's my games run. And then he he turned around and was like, yeah, but you see, the issue there is when you're a masters, so will everyone else that's currently the same, like the people you're avoiding competing against, they'll also be masters.
Unless they get hurt.
Yeah, but it's an interesting one, because I suppose I've heard Castro talk about how it frustrates him that more athletes don't transition from the elite into the masters. Like that he's kind of, it's a bit of a bugbear that he has, that certain athletes who, I guess it would make life easier for him if like these big name athletes in the elite field continued on into the masters field, because you mentioned the marketing aspect, like that, it's just taken care of then, and it instantly develops more interest from his perspective. So like, is that something that annoys you, that it doesn't happen more, or do you think it's kind of, I guess, understandable that if someone's competing at a really high level, they get to a certain point where they're like, I'm done, rather than, okay, let's start all over again?
It's I don't know how they could expect anything else to happen, right? They haven't really done a great job prior to this year, really promoting the Masters and providing them with the experience.
Yeah.
So I understand why it's a kind of a thorn in his side, but what can you expect? You know what I mean? Like people are, if they don't feel
Input
like that,
versus output, I guess. If you're
yeah,
doing,
yeah, 100%.
yeah,
So I feel as we kind of keep going down this road of what this competition looks like and what's going to look like next year, and I would love to see, um, I would love to see our event, the Legends competition, which also got a um, CrossFit license, and some of these other major competitions across the globe have be live qualifiers. So if you win our competition, guess what? You're going to games.
yeah,
And I think that would create a little bit more of a season for the Masters and a little bit more legitimacy in what they're doing.
yeah,
The one thing that we have to realize as Masters is that the individuals, as they compete, are professional athletes, right? As Masters, I think about it more like a pro-am, right? We're kind of like either we're still very competitive. Like the highest male snatch that we had last year at our event was either 275 or 280 from a 40 to 44-year-old athlete. Like that's a pretty competitive snatch. And they're still competitive, but it's not. We have other things going on.
yeah.
We have kids, we have jobs, we have um, slightly more responsibility.
Less, I guess, less people training 6 to 8 hours a day, more people training 90 minutes to
Bro,
2 hours.
if I had to train 6 to 8 hours a day, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be in a wheelchair. So
It's actually funny that you say that this year it's there's the extra legitimacy and the extra, I guess, the extra focus from CrossFit, because I saw someone asked Dan Bailey yesterday, would you like, why have you not, or are you considering doing masters or something? And he was doing like a ruck walk or something. But his
mhm,
response was, before this year, I've never considered it. And then he said, but this year I am considering it. So obviously that legitimacy is spreading, and the I guess the word of mouth and um the kind of buzz around it is growing a little bit, which is great to see. But yeah, sorry, we'll get back to the age group. So you got 30 to 34 is the
mhm,
first one.
30 to 34.
Yeah,
Yep.
I would apply for
30,
that, but I just humiliate myself. So go on. What's next?
35 to 39, 40 to 44, 45, 49, so on and so forth. And then we have 60 to 64 and 65 plus, which is what we
Okay.
had last year as well. Um, the uh, the 65 plus is a pretty amazing group of individuals. Last year we had handstand walks programmed into the competition, and watching people over the age of 65 kicking up and walking 5 feet on their hands is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So, and we only had most of our athletes in that division last year were able to kick up and at least get a little bit of distance on that.
Yeah.
So
That's
pretty
incredible.
cool.
Um, so last year you thought you were holding the event and maybe that was it, one and done, maybe.
Yep,
Now things are obviously changing. So are you already kind of eyeing, say, 2022 and beyond, or like
we are.
have you got any irons in the fire for that?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I'd love to see some of these masters competitions turn into direct qualification for the games. That has been a part of the conversation with Dave and Eric. They weren't prepared to do it this year. I think the logistics of it was just a little bit too in depth and too short focused.
Hmm.
Um, and I also think they want to see what we do with year two. But that could be in the cards for us next year. Is that if you compete at our competition, you get a direct qualification to the CrossFit Games, which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, well, look, we'll finish with a quick fire.
Okay. Oh man,
Um, so snatch or clean?
clean.
Geez, you are really quick at this. Usually there's a pause.
Uh,
This is you're really taking the quick fire seriously. I like it. Cardio or gymnastics?
cardio.
Strength or endurance?
What do I need to work on more?
Which is your preferred?
I prefer strength.
Deadlift or bench?
Bench press.
uh,
Squat for the arms.
yeah, rings or bar?
Rings.
Bike or row?
Row.
Okay. 100 thrusters for time or 100 calorie assault bike for time?
What's the weight on the thruster?
Say open, like 42.5 kilos, whatever that is in pounds.
100 thrusters for time.
Really? God
Yeah.
almighty, why would you pick that?
Because I'll be done that faster than I will 100 calories on the bike.
Really?
Maybe. No, probably. I'm 5'7", man. Like, my range of motion's short.
Yeah, that's my excuse.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks a million for coming on. I think it truly is remarkable what you guys have managed to achieve in, like, I kind of said it joking earlier on, but like, it's true that the games team have years of experience and they've got a big window to make something happen. What you guys did in 3 months is pretty incredible, and it's great seeing it. It's something that I really enjoyed at the time when it was on, because it was like similar to the Rogue Invitational, where it was just like a release of like, oh my god, there's actual stuff happening somewhere and I can watch it. So I'm really excited to see what you can do when you've got that extra backing and the extra support, as well as hopefully the freedom to have a proper full-on event with no restrictions, or at least limited restrictions. And then I'm also really keen to see what these discussions lead to, and what the future holds. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what you can do, and hopefully if one extra person signs up through this interview, it'll be worth it on my end. Maybe not on yours, but
that's the goal. I mean, I just I'd love to have more people participate in the Open. I think, like I said earlier, the change of the guard at the top levels, I think, has created a lot of trust with me, and I think the business model and the competition model are both in good hands.
yeah, that's cool. Well, listen, best of luck with everything.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me on.